Welcome to Ranch Beat. Every country song has a story, and we tell it. I'm James, and today we're digging into a song so small in length, but so huge in feeling, it changed how listeners hear jealousy and longing in country music. This episode, Jolene by Dolly Parton, USA, 1973. We'll unpack the writing, the recording, the people behind it, and why those 2 minutes sting the way they do. Quick promise. By the end of this episode, you won't just know the tune. You'll know the exact decisions that made it feel like a confession. Now, here's the question that started it all. How does a 3-verse plea with almost no chorus become a global anthem that keeps getting covered, parodied, and flipped into different genres?
Before we roll into history, a fast snapshot, written and sung by Dolly Parton. First demo was basically Dolly with an acoustic guitar and her voice. Then it became a single off her 1973 album, Jolene. It hit the country charts and never left the public ear. One-line description, a vulnerable, tinsel plea, dressed in simplicity.
Now let's set the scene. The early 1970s Nashville world was shifting. The singer-songwriter movement had given country artists room to be personal, to put confession and character front and center. Dolly came from that tradition, but also from a hard Scrabble life, and she brought both theatricality and realness to her songs. This is the time when storytelling songs could be radio hits, and also feel like private letters.
Most folks don't know this part. Dolly was on tour with Porter Wagoner when she wrote Jolene. The song came out of a mix of emotion and small details. She later said it was inspired by a young woman who flirted with Porter and also by a red-haired bank teller who had refused to give Dolly a loan. Those anecdotes help, but the real genius is how Dolly turned those specifics into a universal voice.
Listen to this. The title itself, Jolene, is a direct address. No metaphor, no big rhetorical flourish. One name, spoken over and over. That choice makes the song intimate and specific, while inviting anyone to step into the narrator's shoes. It's a clever trick. Give the listener a single focal point, and let the emotion fill the rest.
Let's pull apart 4 pivotal lines. First, Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man. The repetition and the direct plea create urgency. It's not an accusation, it's supplication. That's important. The narrator is exposed and fragile, not vengeful.
Second key line. Your beauty is beyond compare, with flaming locks of auburn hair. Those specific images, flaming locks, paint Jolene vividly but calmly. Dolly doesn't trash talk. She catalogs beauty with almost reverence, which makes the narrator's plea all the more heartbreaking. It's like saying, I see her, I see how she could win him, and that terrifies me.
Third, he talks about you in his sleep, and there's nothing I can do to keep from crying sometimes when he's on my mind. Here you get concrete stakes. It's not just attraction, it's a pattern. The song shows the narrator's internal evidence rather than external proof, which keeps the whole piece anchored in emotion rather than scandal.
Fourth, and maybe the line that tells you everything. You could have your choice of men, but I could never love again. That sounds dramatic, almost theatrical, but it's the raw reveal. The narrator isn't plotting. She's admitting a fear that losing this man would break her capacity to love. That vulnerability is the song's moral center.
Who made the recorded version what it is? Dolly wrote it alone, and when it came time to record, the production was intentionally sparse. Producer Bob Ferguson favored an arrangement that left room for Dolly's voice and the interplay with acoustic guitar. Session players added subtle fills, a restrained percussion, tasteful acoustic guitar, and that aching high-register harmony at moments that lift the tension.
Before this was a hit, it was just an idea on a bus or in a motel room. Dolly's demo was simple, just her and a guitar, but that was the point. The studio preserved that directness. The vocal performance is almost conversational. She slides into notes. She breathes at the right places, and her timing makes each repetition feel newly desperate. This isn't polished for gloss. It's polished for truth.
Most folks don't know the session player's role. The subtle dobro-like fills and the sparing steel guitar colors give the record its country texture without turning it into a showy anthem. The producer leaned on negative space. The song needed air to breathe so the words could land. That's a production decision that matters more than people realize.
Now the fun part, the stories and surprises. There's a myth that Dolly wrote Jolene in 10 minutes. She did say it came quickly once the feeling hit her, but that doesn't erase the craft. Another twist, the name Jolene wasn't an invented muse so much as a small real-world spark. Dolly later mixed different encounters into the character. And here's where it gets interesting. Within a few years, artists across genres were covering it, from country stalwarts to alternative bands to Annie Lennox reworking it into a radically different take decades later.
The covers show the song's elasticity. When the White Stripes or Olivia Newton-John, or more recently, artists in indie and folk circles, interpret Jolene, they expose different textures, anger, admiration, or eerie detachment. That flexibility proves the song is built on universal structure, a named antagonist, a clear wish, and confessional detail. Those elements travel.
A verified studio anecdote. Dolly asked for the vocal to be front and present, so the engineers pulled the mix back on other instruments to keep her voice center. It makes the record feel like a one-sided conversation, like you're eavesdropping. That decision is a masterstroke in empathy building. It forces listeners to side with the speaker.
All right, let's get musical for a moment. A guided listen to the craft. Notice the chord progression. Relatively simple, mostly diatonic, but the melody rides over the hips of those chords in a way that creates tension on the words, "Please don't take my man." The vocal line holds on dissonant tones just long enough to make your chest tighten before resolving. It's economy of means producing maximum emotional effect.
Listen to the space between lines. Dolly leaves gaps in phrasing that feel like breaths gone wrong. Those gaps are as meaningful as the notes themselves. They allow listeners to insert their own memory or fear. If you've ever been jealous or afraid of losing someone, you'll feel that in the silence as much as the words. Next time you hear it, listen for the tiny pause after Jolene. That's where the song lives.
And production choices like a close-mic'd vocal, low reverb, and subtle room ambiance keep the performance immediate. There's no arena echo. It's near, and that nearness turns private worry into public anthem. Technically simple, emotionally complex, that's the production lesson here for any songwriter or producer.
So why does Jolene matter? Because it refuses easy answers. It won't let you judge the narrator or the other woman without first making you feel the narrator's humanity. It teaches songwriting, name the person, be specific, and let vulnerability carry the melody. That's why it still lands in living rooms, cars, and late-night covers.
If you picked up something new today, do us a favor, like and subscribe so we can keep digging into these songs. Tell us your favorite line from Jolene in the comments and suggest the next country song you'd like us to break down from anywhere in the world. We read them and pick episodes from your suggestions.
That's the full story behind Jolene. The meaning, the music, and the small decisions that made it timeless. Before we sign off, next time you hear that simple 2-minute plea, listen for the breath between the words, and you'll hear the fear and the love woven together. This is Ranch Beat, where every country song has a story, and we tell it. I'm James.
And I'm Sam. Thanks for listening. See you in the next one.